The Vince McMahon Netflix documentary series is actually happening. A WWE legend's AEW debut scrapped. Nikki Bella's husband arrested, and more. I'm Ollie Davis, and this is the Wrestle Talk News.
Support Wrestle Talk!
Now, I've heard of getting wrestling heat, but the dark match between Colt Cabana and Satnam Singh on Wednesday's episode of AEW Dynamite took it to another level when the venue's fire alarm started going off, derailing the action when Cabana had to come to the outside as the system announced that everyone should immediately evacuate the building, where, like any fire alarm that's gone off anywhere ever, everyone just tried to ignore it for the longest time possible. A little joke story there to start things off, because now we have to talk about Vince McMahon. Back in October 2020, Netflix announced they would be making a documentary series on Vince called Mr. McMahon. The 6-hour-long episodes will be produced by the filmmaker behind the Tiger King series, Chris Smith, and also The Ringer founder, Bill Simmons, who co-created ESPN's brilliant 30 for 30 sports documentary series. This was to be a big prestige project for Netflix, reportedly one of the highest budgeted of all time, with WWE and Vince's direct cooperation, where McMahon apparently wanted this to be a warts and all portrayal of him. And the next 4 years more than granted his wish. The project was apparently 99% completed when the Washington Post first broke the news that Vince had paid almost $20 million in hush money payments to women who had accused him of sexual misconduct. He then announced his retirement, prompting the Netflix documentary to start reshoots to cover the new revelations. Then at the start of 2023, Vince forced himself back in control of WWE and oversaw the merger with the UFC to create the new company TKO. The project now required more updates. And then in January this year, Janelle Grant filed a graphic lawsuit accusing McMahon of sexual assault and trafficking. Vince swiftly resigned from TKO and has been engaged in a legal battle with Grant and a federal investigation since. On top of all that, Netflix then bought the rights to Monday Night Raw starting from 2025. It seemed like releasing a documentary series about Vince, while they'll have to cover all the allegations of sexual assault, was no longer in either side's best interests. So it was pretty shocking when Netflix announced that the Mr. McMahon show will debut on the 25th of September, along with its first official poster showing Vince McMahon manipulating a puppet Mr. McMahon character in, yeah, that's a boxing ring there. It's a boxing ring graphic because it's got 4 ropes instead of 3. The press release also calls McMahon a co-founder of WWE, which isn't strictly true. The company can trace its origins back to the early 1950s, and shows ran by either Vince's father, Vincent J. McMahon, or his grandfather, Jess, when Vince would have been about 8 years old. I presume the documentary will argue Vince founded the Titan Sports version of the company in the 1980s. But the announcement does claim it will cover the explosive sexual misconduct allegations that led to his eventual resignation. Don't know which one. And it has been made from over 200 hours of interviews with McMahon himself prior to his resignation, his family members, business associates, and some of the most iconic names in wrestling history, as well as the journalists who uncovered McMahon's allegations. WWE documentaries can often, unfortunately, struggle with objective truth. They have a far more North Korean approach to history, where they rewrite and sometimes outright lie to construct their own narrative, like the Monday Night War series, the Ruthless Aggression series, the Rise and Fall of the Ultimate Warrior. They've actually done it so many times we made a list video for it over on Parts Unknown called 10 Times WWE Lied in Documentaries. Put the link in the video description below. And the current cultural landscape is worryingly open to brands or celebrities controlling their own portrayals under the premise of it being a real look into their lives, where shows about everything from the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders to Harry and Meghan have editorial control over these truthful documentaries. But in truth, they're far more like puff piece autobiographies, written or ghost-written by the celebrity themselves, as opposed to an actual serious biography diving into their lives or careers. It remains to be seen what side the Mr. McMahon show could take. Perhaps it focuses far more on his business or creative exploits. Perhaps it doesn't cover the Grant allegations in depth because that's still an ongoing case. Janelle Grant's lawyers have even told WrestleNomics and Post Wrestling that her side hasn't been interviewed for the show. Or perhaps, and this is my best guess, it's damning of Vince, but it portrays WWE in a very positive light ahead of their Netflix debut, even though McMahon shaped the company's toxic culture for the previous 4 decades, with many of the same people working there. What do you think about the McMahon documentary? Let me know in the comments down below. TMZ has reported that Artem Chingventsev, the husband of former WWE star Nikki Bella, was arrested for domestic violence on the morning of the 29th of August. TMZ notes that Nikki's potential involvement in the incident isn't known. And the sheriff's office handling the case has noted the victim in the case has asked for total confidentiality. PW Insider has added that Artem is still listed as incarcerated in Napa Valley Jail with a bail at $25,000, and that he was booked under Californian Penal Code Section 273.5a, which means it is illegal to injure a spouse, cohabitant, or fellow parent in an act of domestic violence. This offence is also referred to as domestic abuse, domestic violence, or corporal injury to a spouse. The investigation remains ongoing. Into a much nicer kayfabe story now. Wrestling legend Mick Foley has revealed he was having talks about an AEW run, which would have ended in his 39th retirement match. Speaking at Nickel City Comic Con, Foley revealed that after he announced he'd like one final match ahead of his 60th birthday next year, he had a secret meeting with a top AEW star. There was no shortage of people from every promotion reaching out to me, and one guy I probably would have gone with because he'd clearly done some thinking about it and lined out 6 great weeks of TV was MJF. We didn't take a photo together because we didn't want to ruin the secret meeting, but I heard what he had to say. I really liked it. I had no doubt he would have pulled it off perfectly, and he's so good and in his prime that he could have worked around my weaknesses and played to my strengths, and I think we could have done something pretty cool. Unfortunately, Foley had to scrap the plans due to suffering a concussion while preparing for an in-ring return. Speaking of wrestlers who should know when to retire, here's 80s wrestler Turbo Jack.
No one talks about the 80s anymore, Turbo Jack. You need to be relevant again. You need to freshen up your gimmick. Oh, hi there! I'm 90s wrestler Turbo Jack. How about that Jerry Springer show? It's fly. No one else is fly? Wrestle Talk's Patreon, which you can support, get your own shout-out, and loads of exclusive videos like Extra Survival Series, all from just $2 a month at patreon.com/WrestleTalk, like these fine people. So thank you, The Cleaner, Kenneth Shaw, the British Bulldog, Philip Boyd J. Smith Jr., he can lie short for longer than you in the ring, Starbuck, Stephen Custer, Shield Maiden, the Zornice, Magic Man, Barrett Blaine, the Prettiest Pirate, D.A.M., Yo Adrian, Rocky, and Go Ace, the Ace of Spades, Adrian Saintil. If you want to be cool and relevant like 90s wrestler Turbo Jack, go to patreon.com/WrestleTalk now.
Please do go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to support us so we can keep making videos. YouTube revenue is down and costs are up, so we need your help. And you get loads of exclusive videos if you do too, like the first episode of our brand new WrestleTalk Extra arc covering the Kurt Angle vs Samoa Joe feud in TNA. Which means Luke and I got to talk about how brilliantly bad TNA was in 2006 for 4 hours. That's patreon.com/WrestleTalk. And subscribe to us here at WrestleTalk because we'll have loads of Bash in Berlin coverage this weekend, where WrestleVotes is reporting CM Punk and Drew McIntyre's match won't just have a strap stipulation, it'll also be brought to you by sponsor The Killer's Game, starring Dave Bautista and Drew McIntyre. The movie follows Bautista's hitman character Joe Flood, who orders a hit on himself when he's diagnosed with a fatal illness to go out in style. But psych! The diagnosis was a mix-up, and now he has to stop the unstoppable assassins he contracted to kill him. McIntyre is one of the hitmen. Drew has actually told the Nerd Reactor podcast that Bautista became his Hollywood mentor on set. Wrestling friends. In other Scottish wrestler news, Fightful Select is reporting Wyatt's six-member Nikki Cross has signed a new multi-year deal with WWE. Daniel Garcia still hasn't signed a new deal over in AEW, but the promotion is reportedly happy with his return at All In and then his MJF attack angle on the following episode of Dynamite. It was also speculated that former WWE stars Zach Gibson and James Drake had signed a contract with AEW following their return at All In too, but Fightful Select writes they don't yet have a deal. Their next match will be against the Outrunners on tonight's episode of Rampage. You would have expected Dynamite to get a ratings bump after one of the biggest shows of the year, All In on Sunday, but continuing the frustrating trend of no matter how great their pay-per-views are, no difference is made in the TV viewership. Wednesday's episode of Dynamite pulled 691,000 viewers and a .22 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic, numbers almost identical to the previous week's 698,000 viewers and a .24. It did finish first on cable for the night though. Now go watch our Bash in Berlin predictions ahead of the pay-per-view tomorrow.